episode of Framing New Heights. My name is Michael Hicks. I am your host. We've got a very special guest, but before I bring him on today, here's a word from our sponsors. Listeners, check this out. Are you ready to unlock your true full potential? Ironically, tonight we're going to give you some great advice about that. But as a life coach and life therapist, relationship specialist, helping you empower you to become the best version of yourself, taking your challenges into opportunities, discovering your true purpose, and aligning your actions with passions, and then start your living your best purposeful life, which I'm super excited to talk about today. If you want more information on this, you can go to my website, which is Live to Thrive. That's LIV, the number 2, thrive.com for a free consultation today. Because if you live to thrive, we believe it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. As well as, here's another word from my other sponsor. Can't sleep, aches and pains? You got to check out this CBD oil, y'all. I have been using this product. It is Amish tested. And I tell you, if you've got old sports injuries, anything, and maybe you're just struggling with sleep, you put a few drops underneath your tongue and you can get some good quality sleep. And I'm not exaggerating. It's Amish tested CBD oil. And right now with Framing New Heights podcast, you can get it for 50% out at checkout. All you got to do is go to envitamins.com and you get the goodies there. All right, let's dive in. I got to bring in, my brother from another mother who is already on the podcast, Mr. Douglas Turner. And hey, I got to give a few accolades about this gentleman. Not only is he a friend, a confidant, a pastor, a father, and by all means, just a beautiful, wholesome family. Gosh, I just had the opportunity. You know this. Well, not too far. Well, actually, it was quite a while ago. I just had your two sons over for dinner, and it was just awesome to catch up. Turner, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you, man?
Man, I am. Hey, you remember blessed and highly favored? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was the cliche, boy, about 20 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm blessed and
I
highly
still
favored.
use that. Or you know what I
So,
usually say? I
what's that?
usually say I'm magnificent, and people are like, "Whoa, wait,
What?
what? Magnificent?
Yeah.
Why do you even?
Right. How
What
do-
does it even mean?"
that's a big word. I have a friend that says, I always ask him, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "I'm super fantastic."
Ooh, I like that
Super,
one too. Yeah,
super fantastic.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah. You gotta step out of the norm. I feel, and I
That's
hate
right.
using that word norm because what in
Yeah,
today's
yeah.
day and age, like what is
What's normal? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, never mind. I'll hold
No,
that thought
no,
for later.
no, don't. This is what this is about.
Yes, sir. I know it is. So there is in my mindset, in my belief, that there is a set normal.
Hmm.
Everything else is an offshoot of what should be the set normal. And then you start, we all have done it. I've done it. This is my normal because I wanted to justify what it was I wanted to enjoy. And so normal shift because your desire shifts.
It does when, and this is
Yeah,
the topic of our podcast today, is
yeah.
how do you live a purposeful, driven, successful life? I'm throwing all those different words in there, and it's interesting with what you just said because yes, and there's you sent me a text earlier. You're like, brother, this is thick. This is some
It is
some
thick.
deep stuff.
It's
It
really,
is,
yeah.
and you know what's crazy is there's two things I want to say before I want to ask you your definition of purpose. Is I read this statistic, and this
Yeah.
is alarming, and the reason why I found a new way in life and why I help people now with what I do is discover their purpose. But 90%
Hmm.
of people in this world, in this society, they go through their, and I hate using this word, but I'm going to say it, their mundane life
Yeah.
with no twinkle in their eye,
None.
with none whatsoever, no desire, no super excited.
Yeah.
Maybe they're that father that as soon as they get home, the first thing they do is they crack open a beer, put their feet on the couch, and then shut down everybody else because their day, let's just call it, it sucks.
Yeah.
And that's just so sad. and
Yeah.
so crazy. And the next point that I want to say is, do you remember? And I thought about this today as I was preparing for the podcast,
Yes, sir.
and I was like, oh my gosh, because for those of you that don't know, you got to go back and check out. It was episode 100. If you want to know more about Turner's story and who he is and what he's about, we really kind of broke it down there as more of an interview. Today's kind of really about diving into purpose. But I remember when we were coaching together, and I'll never forget this. I would always, because there were certain kids that couldn't afford cleats, and part of the requirement. You remember this?
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
do.
Yep. And part of my thing was, hey, you got to have cleats to play. So what do? I would go to the Nike outlet and I'd buy
Hmm.
cleats. I'd buy
Yeah.
cleats for these kids, and I just give them to my practice, give them to practice.
Yes.
And I remember you saying something to me, and you go, Brother Hicks. And for those of y'all don't know, Turner's black, I'm white, but we're still
Yeah.
brothers.
You said
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. And you said this to me. You go, man, you're gonna be blessed someday, man. You're gonna be blessed.
Yeah.
And as I reflect, and one of the things that I'm currently working on as a renewed again Christian, or I wouldn't just say renew it again, just renew it again follower of Christ,
Yeah.
is writing down your blessings and
Mm,
how, gosh, like how strong is that? That kind of goes right into the tie-in with purpose.
sure.
So what is your definition, would you say, of purpose? And now we get all kinds of walks of life that come to this podcast. I
Oh,
mean, we're streaming
absolutely.
on 8 different countries. People have different ethnicities. People have
Sure.
different religious backgrounds. What are your thoughts? I want to hear your understanding of what you think purpose is.
Uh, okay. This could be an all-along podcast in itself, just trying to define what purpose is. I honestly, I'll have to lean to what the definition of purpose is. What it says in the dictionary that we read, which is mostly Webster's, Merriam's dictionary, right? And so I'll just read it and then I'll expound from there if that's okay.
For sure.
The definition of purpose is this: something set up as an object or end to be attained. It is something set up as an object or end to be attained. That's wide open in this regard. It can be a positive end or a negative end. It could be a good end or an evil end. It could be the beginning of something or the demise of something. The word purpose in itself is simply a word and can and has a definition, but it's what we attach to this definition is what I really think the question is. Am I
Yeah.
tracking right with you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Because I see it as it's a compass that guides, and this is just as the life coach and live to thrive, and what my whole meaning in behind all of this
Yeah.
is, it guides your actions. Your purpose should guide your actions and your decisions, and then
Right.
aligning that with what truly matters to you. And if you can truly see purpose as a unique reason why you exist, I'm going to go bold for a second. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You're not going to be depressed. You're not going to have issues financially. You're
Yeah.
not going to struggle in relationships.
Right.
I can go on and on. Your career is
Yeah.
going to be fulfilled.
Sure.
Um, you know, and I just recently had a podcast about finding success, but I think it's really connecting your spiritual walk, your faith, in a sense that inspires you to really get deep for a second. And
Yeah.
there's so many different components that we can break it down. Turner is just understanding, like one of the biggest. I tell you, one of my biggest turns in life was when I picked up the book, Purpose Driven Life.
Purpose driven life. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rick Warren, right?
Rick
Rick.
Warren. Yep.
Yep,
Absolutely.
yep, yep. And that was, we talked about this in the last podcast, but that was at a monumental time in my life where it was a really dark moment, and it really put things into perspective for me.
Yeah.
And And when you can really, I think, align what what your values are, what your morals are,
Hmm.
I think, you go to bed and you can sleep, right?
Yeah. Right.
We live in a society now where you have every commercial that you see. If you watch TV, I very seldom watch it, but when you do, it's like, drug for this, you can't
Yeah.
sleep, and then they list all the side effects. But it's like, man, all of that stuff can go away. And correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong on your thoughts on this, if you know your purpose and your walk in life.
Yeah. So I think we need to set a precedent of where we're coming from when we talk about what our purposes are. And it may be safe for me to say, and I don't want to offend anyone on your in your audience. I'm not trying to, but just for the sake of where I see purpose being grounded is in my faith in Christ. So that might be different for some other folks. They may not believe in God at all. We may have atheists or agnostics that listen to your podcast. So, uh, for the purposes of our discussion and where I'm coming from, purpose for me is directly related to my faith. And so that's the jump off point. Um, I hope I'm answering your question as
Yeah, you are.
well.
You're good.
Okay. So, purpose is a an intent to an end. You want to attain something. And for me, the attaining of this purpose is of a good purpose, not
Yeah.
something that we may consider evil. And so I think that's important again because I used to, well, I used to say it a ton, and I still hear people saying, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my purpose. What's
Yeah.
my purpose?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I ask, what is it that you want to do? Because you won't have a purpose until you come to a place where you say, I want to do this. When you say, I want to do this, I want to attain this, that's purpose. Because you set a direction towards the goal. Something simple. I want to own a home. Well, that's not so simple, I guess, but I want to own a home, or I need a bigger place. I want a condo. I want to get out of the apartment. I want to move into a condo. I want to lease a three-bedroom townhouse, whatever it is. But
Hmm.
that just became a goal, and then the purpose is getting to the goal. So, what's the intent, or what's the end? And if the end is a house, then you have to begin to do things that define the purpose, because the purpose is the action to get to the goal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
is getting to the end or the intent, right? So
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. So
No, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
so then purpose is paramount and is dependent upon your goal. Then you have people asking, okay, what is my goal? What am I we hear this all the time too, right? Why am I on this earth? Why am I here? Why am I here? My father was, and just I won't be too transparent, but my father was a certain way, and I'm his seed, and so I find his tendencies in me.
Of course.
And okay, I wasn't brought up this way. What is this?
Yeah.
What is this? And so, if I had made what my father was the goal in my life, my purpose would have been evil, if that makes any sense to
For
you,
sure.
without me just, you know, blurting out what what I'm referring to, right? So we have to, oh man, I guess have to is a hard statement, but there has to be a place of realization in anybody's life where they say, okay, let me take an inventory of myself, maybe my family, maybe all of the things that I have experienced. If I've had any school, if I hadn't had any school, if I'm an artist, I want to draw, I want to write music, I want to rap. Uh, I just, I like putting puzzles together. Become the best togetherer
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
life,
For sure.
and make that your goal, and then the goal identifies your purpose.
Yeah, and and even doing that process though too, Turner, is how many of those when you set the goal, we run into challenges or obstacles, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's where I think people like let's just take fitness for an example.
Yeah.
People had all their New Year's resolutions, man.
Oh man.
They were ready to go, boy. They
Yeah.
had X, Y, and Z ready to
Yeah.
go.
Absolutely. Had.
And then I tell you, the gym I went to, parking lot was just packed. I'd have to park in the
Yeah.
street and walk. And I always say to myself, this happens every year, y'all.
Every year.
Every year,
Absolutely.
every year. And now I gotta get real close in the
Right
morning.
up. Right up front.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
but that's what I'm talking about is you know you have to refrain setbacks and
Oh,
challenges, and you got to use those
that
as
is
stepping
awesome.
stones. Yeah, because
That
I
is
think
awesome.
that's the key piece, Turner, because I
Yeah.
think that's how you become more purposeful in life,
Yeah.
right? And like how what would you say, how have you like transformed obstacles into
Yeah.
opportunities for
Into
growth?
opportunities. Yeah. So because I had a set goal, and I had come to a place, and I said this. I made a statement similar to this last time we spoke. I came to the end of myself, and everything that I thought I was to do to become was failing. But there was a thread of um of a reoccurring issue in my life that would crop up, but that thread, that issue, was leading me to my goal.
Uh-huh.
And so then it was my goal
Yeah.
to get rid of or to help those who were having the same issue that I was having and growing out of. But I had to go through the adversity of the issue to learn how to grow out of it. And what helped me to grow out of it was the frustration that I kept falling back into it.
Yeah, your old self.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I kept
Yeah.
what is this? I keep falling back into this. Okay, I'm getting ready to destroy everything that I've attained so far in my life if I let this thing continue in my life. And so then it was, all right, hold on. How do I overcome this? And I started then putting in place the purpose to figure out how to overcome this issue. And that was my goal. So my purpose became, I'm going to take all these experiences I had, learn from them. How did I even live through that?
You're right.
Because
Right?
I could have died in that thing,
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
literally.
yeah,
How did I even live through that? And the fact that I got out of that, and I don't really remember how I did. Okay, for me, that had to be, it must be God.
for
That for
sure.
me.
For sure.
And so then I would fall back into something else. Okay, how did I even get back into this? And so after I went back through those peaks and valleys, I got to a place that said, okay, because you're allowing yourself to go through those peaks and valleys, and you're wrestling with that stuff because you haven't decided in your mind and made it a goal that you're going to come out of that.
Yes.
And
Or
so I made,
relied on, I think though too, you hit it earlier though. I truly think, and again, my listeners know Christian background, reborn
yeah,
again Christian, and I think faith is tremendous as far as delivering your purpose.
absolutely.
And then on top of that, I think what's also important is, sir, everybody can say, "Oh yeah, I got faith." I got faith. I got faith. And I'm on this journey, Turner. You're gonna be proud of me. I'm reading the Bible.
Aha,
I'm on day 43 of 365 days, and
yeah,
um, and it's intense. And right now, um, the Israelites are fleeing Egypt, and they're going
yeah,
through
you,
the sea. I'm there now. But the story of how, and it goes back and forth on how Jesus gets crucified, man, I find time. I guess let me get back on track here. But my point to all of this is
Yeah, I think you
when
were
we
on track.
yeah, when we can cultivate like a resilience
Yeah,
mindset,
yeah,
and like everybody will always say, "Oh, I don't have enough time,"
yeah.
you know, and my first thing I always say is, no, you don't know how to manage your time.
Correct. You don't make it. That's boy. Ding, 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 ding.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Because
absolutely.
like I can honestly say, like, being a father, a single father for that, having a significant other, working a 9 to 5, having my Live to Thrive business on the side,
Yeah,
and then on top of that, finding fitness. People will be like, well, how do you find time? I
yeah.
make time
You make the
because
time.
I either will go to bed an hour earlier
Yeah.
and get up and really spend, it's about 25 minutes a day
Yep.
now that I'm
Hmm.
really spending in, and for me it's God's word.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
and here's what I want to get to is about having that resilient mindset.
Yeah,
You I'm going to tell you, if you're struggling with your purpose, I'm going to ask you, what are you watching? What are you
correct.
listening to? Are
Correct.
you following the mainstream media?
Right.
Whether you like somebody or you don't, but that's constantly hitting your subconscious,
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
affecting that resilient mindset. So,
Absolutely.
what are you doing to fill that up?
Yeah.
I recently heard, if it's not, if you have, and even on top of that, I think purpose has a lot to do with how you talk to yourself and then how you talk to
Absolutely.
others, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you kind? Does
Hmm.
it need to be said?
Right.
And is it factual, right?
Yeah, I
Like
love number two. Number three is huge, but
100%.
I love number two. Do you really need to say that?
Even on social media.
Yeah. Did you really need to post that? Do we really need to know you were leaving town so that every thief can now case your house?
For sure.
Did we really need to know? Did you have to put that on social media so potentially a million people could see it? Yeah,
What do
yeah,
you what do you say for individuals that struggle with self-doubt? Um Maybe they've failed they've lost their New Year's resolutions, whatever goals that they had. And that I struggle with too, is like, why do you have to have New Year's goals
yeah,
on New Year's? For as I've been working with some relationships, marriages, people of that nature. One of the biggest things I always tell them is you should have monthly goals for yourself. You should have monthly goals for your relationship.
yeah.
But what do you say to people that maybe what would you say to them how to overcome self-doubt? Like, because I think that's in alignment too with purpose.
Yeah, so that's a biggie. All of these are big. I would want to do if they would allow us to do this is a conversation about how they got to this place of self-doubt. What happened? What was it? Was it that daddy wasn't supportive? Was he not in the home? Did mom not nurture you the way you thought you should have been? Did you have some kind of failure that embarrassed you in school? Yeah, it could be anything. It could be anything. And so I would just believe that if you don't uncover what that root was, I don't know if you can help somebody overcome self-doubt. We can encourage all day long, but if they aren't receiving the encouragement because they don't think they're worthy of the words that you're sharing with them, they live in self-doubt. So you have to try to empower them to a place that no, you're worth something. You're worthy of these words that I'm gracing upon you, and it's not just because I'm trying to put icing on, on the cake or whatever it is. No, you are really worthy to be talked to in this type of way because your worth is greater than you know right now, and I want you to know that.
for sure. You know,
So, yeah, that's just
I
that's
remember,
cool.
and it's well said because it brings me to, I think it's the parable of the shepherd and the 100 sheep, right? And
Hmm.
99 are there, but one goes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
And I feel like, a lot of people are that one,
Yeah,
and there's no understanding. But like, I'm gonna get to my point, but I feel like if you can find that that faith, that ground of why you're living, and like I always say, what like my everybody's like, well, how are you today? Great, I woke up. Like literally, I get the
absolutely.
opportunity to wake up. But like everybody is so unique and so different and so skilled, and there's so much potential that I don't even think many of us, like, if you let's just think about this for a second. And I'm going back to the sheep person, but the
Yeah,
shepherd will leave to
yeah,
find that other sheep to bring it back.
yeah,
That's who we all are. We all are that lost sheep
yeah.
sometimes, that need that. But I mean, when we were kids, did you ever think anything like this would happen? We're literally, you're in Chicago,
Yeah,
I'm in Milwaukee area, but we're
yeah.
communicating on a device.
On the device. Yeah, yeah. Well, we had the prophets that wrote the cartoon The Jetsons,
You're right. You're right.
and so we saw it all of our childhood. It
That's
was
true.
just too hard for us to fathom. You
That's
know.
so true.
So
We could
now
also
there
say, hey,
there have been
The Simpsons had put it a lot into
oh my
fruition
God,
too, man.
oh my God, man. So, and I'll say this too. Now we've had flying cars since like the 50s. They just aren't. We just don't know about. But there's been little crafts that can fly
Yeah.
or right off the street. You know.
It,
So,
I mean, it's
uh,
going to be amazing once. I mean,
oh,
once your kids are like our
oh,
our age, and even
yeah,
my daughter. Oh my gosh, it's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah. If I can interject, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
shared the. I just want to share another story from the Bible. You shared the lost sheep. The one that I think of that I think relates to this conversation also is the prodigal son. And he left a place that was well uh, supplying for him, right?
Yeah.
And he left in a little bit of arrogance. He said, Daddy, I'll give me my inheritance now. Give me my money now. I want to go party. And he went out, and the Bible talks about his riotous living. And he spent all his money and found himself eating slop with pigs. But it took him getting to the end of himself in that slop with the pigs to say, what am I doing? I am worth something. I come from royalty. My daddy has all that I need. And we can go right to, we can preach right there, but we won't, right? My daddy has all that I need. I'm going home. I don't have to stay in this mud. I may feel like I'm not worthy. I have a challenge with being uh, uh, self doubt,
Yes.
but I know somebody who supports me. He loved me before I left, and now that I'm in this mess, I'm just going to trust that when I go back home, he's gonna at least let me clean up. But what happens is when his father sees him coming in the field, his father takes off in full sprint to go meet him.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Man, come on. Son, you home. I don't care what it was you dealt with. I don't care what kind of sin you perpetrated. I don't care what kind of mess you were in.
Mm.
You are my son now. You were my son when you felt less than worthy, and you're still my son. And I'm getting ready to throw a big party for you. Here's a nice robe. Put on the best robe. Kill that calf. We're getting ready to have a party. The
Yeah.
son that went wayward is home.
Well, and then that just also says that your past doesn't define you.
It does not.
It does not. I
But
mean,
but
and
but
go
those who are in self worth let it.
right, right.
They let that thing define them because maybe that's all they always heard. You're just like your daddy. I don't know why I keep going back to that, but
No,
we
but
hear
you're
that kind of
right
stuff.
though. But
You're
that's
just like
that's limiting. No, Turner, you're right because
yeah.
that's limiting beliefs. Also, let's talk about this. I mean, how often did our parents say, "Son, that don't grow on money don't grow on
Money
trees."
don't grow on trees.
But the key is, man, you know how much money goes through these banks?
Oh man,
Right.
yeah,
So when
absolutely,
that creates limiting beliefs, which I
yeah,
think then discourages maybe our direction and our purpose and our track for progress. Right.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
you have to figure out that going back, you had talked about something about not knowing other people's self doubt. Well, let's talk about this.
yeah,
Men
man,
in
yeah,
general don't know how to be vulnerable and
correct,
share those deep things that maybe are creating self doubt
correct,
because of it could
yeah,
be culture, it could
yep,
be, I mean, it could be their upbringing, it could be boys don't cry. I mean, all of this stuff.
absolutely,
And you got to tear that down. And when you can, and again, I, you know, teaching vulnerability to men is hard because it
yeah,
has to be there has to be a really a trust fall, right? Like, I
yeah,
got you, bro. Fall, I'll catch you.
yeah,
And I think that's a big thing though too, is when you have those limiting beliefs and those self-doubts, and then on top of that, men not being able to be what are your thoughts on vulnerability as a
oh.
like, what are your thoughts?
Oh, Hicks, man, you are like all in my life right now. I
Good.
promise you are,
I
man.
love it.
Listen. At the lowest point in my marital relationship, I had to become vulnerable, or I was going to lose everything. And I don't know if I've shared this story with you before, or even if I went into it on the last podcast. Man, I'm not a church boy. I told you that before. I didn't grow up in church. I
And now everybody,
uh,
he's leading a church, just to let you know.
Woo, I did not grow up in church. And so I came to the end of myself and I was like, okay, I've been hearing about this Jesus dude. That's just how I said it. I've been hearing about this Jesus dude. And if I need it, at this point, I have nothing else. Can't talk to my parents because they were divorced. I never knew my dad, my real dad, never knew him. I know that I knew of him now at 60, right? Hey, man, I remember that about you. But the details I didn't know. I've been seeing him most of my
Yeah, you
life,
shared
and
that. Yeah,
oh my God,
yeah,
I've seen him most of my life and didn't know it was him. I
yeah.
had no idea who he was. Anyway, let me get back to the vulnerability piece. Um, Let me just share some of the masculinity I was trained in.
Yeah.
My,
Well, you
my
were also in the
father,
military too,
yeah,
right?
I
You've
was
been.
going there. You're right. I was
Yeah,
going there.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
because you talked about men, boys don't cry. What you crying for? You're supposed to be tough. You don't play with dolls. Well, I had soldier figures. They were dolls, right? But I could play with soldiers, but I couldn't play with a Barbie. And I didn't necessarily want to play with a Barbie, but you understand.
For
You
sure.
better not touch that doll. Why are you playing with that doll? And so get out the kitchen. That's your mama's job. That's your sister's job. What you
Wow.
in there
Right.
cooking for?
Yeah.
Um, all that stuff. And so I was a crybaby kid. I was a crybaby. And so for a while, my stepdad didn't think I was he was trying to toughen me up. And so one day I come home and I say, I want to play football. He was like, what? You want to play what? I said, I want to play football. I think I can do. He said, the way you cry, that's exactly what he said to me. I said, no, Dad, I think I'm gonna do this. Went out and never looked back.
That's awesome.
Started both ways in high school.
Yeah.
Played 2 years in college with a bum shoulder surgery and all that, and still played two years in college. Anyway, and I had to quit because of the harness. At, Graduated from college. This is my alma mater on my chest now, right
Yeah.
now.
What does it say?
It's Carroll University. I graduated
Oh,
from Carroll.
I didn't know. I didn't know
Yeah,
you were really
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I graduated from Carroll College in
You
Waukesha,
guys,
Wisconsin.
thank you. That's yeah,
Yep. hmm And so I know it's backwards, but if I can
yeah,
flip the
yeah.
camera, you can see it. But anyway, um, then I joined the military and excelled in the military. I excelled. I really did. I just not to brag and that, but that's just I went up pretty quick. And so here I am, football trained, masculinity trained, army trained. I don't have a problem being a man
Mm.
until I'm about to lose my wife. And
Wow,
then I don't know how to be a man
wow.
because it takes a man to keep his marriage,
Oh,
not masculinity.
oh, that's so well said.
It it takes a man to keep his marriage,
And not
not
only a man, though, Turner, properly a proper man that knows how to lead, right?
absolutely. And the leader has to be vulnerable to somebody he trusts.
Oh, yes,
Has to be because
yes.
a leader with no successor is a failure. They haven't trained anybody, or people don't know your heart. Are you a leader or a dictator?
Mm,
And so vulnerability came in right then in that period. Douglas Douglas was about one. Tells you how long ago that was. He'll be 30 this year.
that's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. He'll be 30 this year.
Man,
He's
I
about
tell you,
one.
can I just park for a second, man?
Absolutely.
I hadn't seen Doug since he was like at DLH, and man, he's like a grown man. Like I was
Oh,
having grown
yeah,
man
man.
conversation with these guys, and it
Absolutely.
was just, oh, it's such a
It's
beautiful thing,
surreal.
man. I
And
wish
it's
you would have been
surreal.
there, man. I wish you guys would have been there. We're gonna make
Yeah,
it happen.
yeah, man, we will. They run to Milwaukee because that's their hometown. That's where they were born, right?
Yeah,
So they run back every quarter or so. So they try to get home, and they always say we're gonna try to see Hicks when we go. Always,
I love it. Yeah.
always, and that's on them. I don't pressure them or anything. They just know we're gonna try to find Hicks and two or
Hey,
three other people. Yeah,
when we sat down and ate, and I was like, "This is my house, so this is my house, so I'm gonna pray." Man,
right.
I didn't even get a chance to put the food down, and Doug's like, "We're gonna pray." I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
wait
that's
a
great.
second, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Okay, step back, Hicks, step back." I was like, "Go ahead, let him go." I
yeah,
was
that's
just
awesome.
like, it was awesome. It was just
Yeah,
amazing.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, get back to the vulnerability piece. It took it took it took the vulnerability for me to ask God to come into my heart without a church, without a preacher, none of that. I just knew I need something else because I'm not making this thing successful. And there's no sense in asking my dad because they didn't work.
Yeah,
Right. I didn't have anybody else I trusted.
right.
So I said, Lord, help me. And I promised, Hicks, I had a life change. Now there's a lot more to that, but I was growing to this place. So I had started reading the Bible, no teaching, formal teaching to do that. When I started reading, for some reason I understood it.
Wow.
And that blew me away. And so
I got so many questions, but anyway,
oh man,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to make this too long because I know
Yeah,
and you can ask the questions you want. But
yeah, yeah.
so I started reading and I was like, I understand this. Why do I understand this? And I started praying. Okay, Lord, what is this? And he started telling me some things, and I had to be in a place to know it was him and to understand and even believe that God still talks to you.
Can I?
Yeah,
Absolutely. He
absolutely,
talks to me all the
absolutely,
time. He talks to me
absolutely,
all the time, all the time.
absolutely.
And it's interesting because my pastor recently said, he's like, ask him to talk to you. He's
Yeah.
like, but be careful. You ask him, he might
He's
be
gonna
telling you
talk.
something,
Yeah,
and you may not like to hear it.
absolutely. And
But
that,
that's interesting that you say that because
yeah,
I literally will ask,
yeah,
and sometimes I get a response right away, like,
yeah,
"Oh," and I think it's a beautiful. And I
yeah,
love your story because it's similar to me, Turner.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
the biggest turn, like when I had that dark moment in my life,
yeah,
I remember having an outpour of community reach. But I mean, I opened up the Bible and I
yeah,
started reading.
absolutely,
I started reading
absolutely.
because that's where I grew up. And my mom, I didn't have a dad. Similar to you, you know
Yeah.
that story. But mom
Mm-hmm.
would always take me to church. Boy, you
Yeah.
better sit straight. And if you didn't sit straight, Turner, you didn't sit straight. You're the sister. You got the little.
Right.
Better sit
Yeah.
straight right now.
Right. Right. So I asked the Lord, help me. And he said, okay.
Wow.
And so as I'm reading the scriptures, I'm in Judges, the book of Judges, chapter 4,
Okay.
verse 4. I shared this with you before. I'll make it quick, as quick
Yeah.
as I can.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
says, now Deborah, comma, a prophetess, comma, judged Israel in those days. And uh, and then she had a husband. His name was Lapitha. She became a wife after all of that, and she was the wife of Lapitha. You keep reading that chapter just so that I don't spend a lot of time there. You keep reading that chapter, then it goes into a war type of scenario. Now, I'm still in the military.
Mm.
So as I'm reading, I realize God is talking to me where I am.
Wow.
He was talking to me where I was right then.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a military mindset, so I'm still masculine man. I know how to go to war. Don't have a problem fighting. Ex-football player, all that stuff, right? All this masculinity. So he's talking to me from a military chapter, but he's talking to me as I'm reading. Because if I wasn't reading, I don't think I would have gotten this message. So as I'm reading that chapter, Brother Hicks, it talks about Caesarea and those going to war and the men on the oh God, I don't want to butcher it. Those on God's side are afraid to go, and they're telling Deborah, if you don't go, we're not going. And I'm like, wait a minute, God, I'm not afraid to go to war, and I certainly this is what I remember saying, brother. Certainly don't need a woman to go for me. What are you trying to tell me, God? Help me. I don't understand this. I'm trying to find. I just want to find
Yeah. Yeah.
some of that story. So anyway, I I'm reading this story, man, and I keep going back through. Why won't they go to war without Deborah? I got a problem with that. He said, and this is what God said. He said, Doug, slow down. Go back up to the beginning of the chapter where I started you, verse 4. Now Deborah, a prophetess. Then he started to stop me at each comma and each punctuation. He said, now Deborah. He said, now I set a woman in place in this chapter to be judge for my purpose. And I chose a woman because she was right for the job. There was no man that was right for this job. That's how he's talking to me. He's talking to me like because he is my father, right? So he's talking to me like that. And so then it says, a prophetess. He said, boy, this is how I was hearing it. He said, now listen, I made her judge an individual first, and then I put a gift in her second, a prophetess. Then he says, was judging Israel at that time. I gave her a job. She had authority. I said, God, what are you saying? He said, I want to teach you how to be a husband. And you can't be a husband if you're full of masculinity.
Wow.
You can't be.
Wow.
He said, so it goes on to say that uh, her husband's wife name was Lapitheth, right? That's the only place in the Bible you see his name. So then I began to ask the question, okay, God, I don't have anything more to do. then cover my wife's gift, because that's what he was telling me in this verse 4. He said, all that military stuff you got down. You're not like Barack. You won't go to war, kill Sister Rhea. A woman's going to kill her. I got all that handled. He said, what I need you to learn with your masculine self is how to cover this uh, dominionated. Not that's not a negative thing, because we were both made in dominion. Male and female were made in dominion. You need to learn how to cover this powerful, gifted woman I've given you. That's what you need to do.
Oh,
And then Lapidus, he says, study his name. I studied Deborah and I studied the husband's name. Deborah's name means royalty, princess type of um, wording on it, on that name. He said, now study your wife's name. I did it, means the same thing, meant the same thing. I studied Lapitheth, and it means Hicks, flames, torches, light. He said, now this is what you do to keep your marriage and to begin to show vulnerability. And if I don't ever use you for anything else, you make sure you do this the rest of your marriage. You need to learn how to shed the light, shine the light on the gift that I've given you and your wife. You are to cover your wife. You are to learn how to communicate and cover your wife. He said, now you're coming later. This gift's in you. And then he began to tell me why I understood the Bible. He said, because I've gifted you as a teacher.
oh, wow.
But he wouldn't tell me what mine were until I prayed for what hers were.
Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting because, you know, with purpose, do you think your community has to be supportive? Because I feel like,
Nope.
yeah, right? Because, yeah, I look back and I reflect, and, I came from, mom. I had a stepdad. Mom
Mhm.
originally was with dad. He flew every different place. Didn't fly, but he would get a different job. Mom could never find child support, and then, but it's interesting. You say no, but what are your thoughts on? I mean, I look back and I see, like, I didn't have a father. I could have been all these other bad things,
Yep.
not having a
True.
father. Like, man, I did some silly stuff when I was a kid, like
We all did.
vandalism, like
Oh man.
theft, like all kinds of just,
I did too, brother.
yeah, like just silly stuff. What are your thoughts on, you know, like now though? I think as you reflect and you look now, I think you need a supportive community, because I think maybe I'm wrong, but I'm
Well,
curious on
so so yeah.
your experience on this. Is
Hmm.
Are we a product of the people that we hang out with now, right?
Hmm.
Versus, like, even back then, I distinctively remembering when I hung out with this one kid. He's the one that showed me we had this. I don't even know if you remember Prangy Ways, but there's a place called Prangy Way, and at that time they had little price tags for stickers, and he would just peel them off.
Feel them
He'd
off,
peel off
yeah,
a cheaper one and put it on something else. And he
and
showed
buy
me
it.
how to do this. So then one day I was like, oh, well, he did it. I did it.
Yeah,
So I guess where I'm going is, like, when you're in that community that
yeah.
maybe isn't supportive, you're gonna kind of go down the wrong road. What are your
True.
thoughts? What are your thoughts on that piece? Because you originally
So
said no to a supportive
yeah,
community. You
and I
know,
still I still stand on the no, and I'll explain that. But I think I think your question was, well, community, and are you a product of those people you hang around, or do you take on?
yeah.
So yes, you do. You can.
Okay.
That it's like residue. It sticks to
Yes.
you, right?
Yes.
It is also um how do I want to say this? It is maybe out of necessity because we don't know anything, and so we follow something that we feel inertly, we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we follow because we don't have anything else to follow, or we're curious. That was my experience. We're
Yeah.
curious. I knew I shouldn't have
For
been
sure.
doing.
For sure.
I knew I shouldn't have been, but I sure wanted the excitement of it. I wanted to try it, and got pretty doggone good at it. And the only reason I got caught was because my friend got caught, and I was with
I gotta share. Let me just speaking of
him.
caught stories. Let me just share this really. I'm gonna just share this story really quick because I think it'd be interesting. Is I remember we were in eighth grade and we decided that it was gonna be funny if we went out and vandalized. And my buddy had
Oh
a
yeah.
slingshot,
Oh
and he had a
man.
slingshot turner, and he had these little metal pellets. Now we
Yeah.
went to a location where there was nobody there except for a sign. We first started to take the sign. Remember those old school signs where they had the lettering on them, and the
Sure.
letters you could just make. We would just put some profound, weird, funny, bad words on there, like
Yeah. Yeah.
you can only
Yeah.
imagine. And
Yeah.
then we are like, oh well, let's go hide over here and then take a slingshot and
Right.
peg off these windows and break these windows. So the next thing you know, we see these footsteps and flashlights running toward us. And we were like, what's going on? So we take off
uh.
running. We take off
Yeah.
running. Man, I was fast back in the day. I used to play a
Yeah.
game called Catch the Hickey. And that obviously my last name was Hicks, but they could never catch me. I was always super fast. And anyway, I'm running
Yeah.
fast. And I'm like, I can turn her, I can get away. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
But my buddy goes, Mike, wait. And all of a sudden
Oh.
I turned for a second.
Yeah.
They tackled him. They got him. As soon as
Yeah.
I turned, I tripped. I got caught.
He got caught. Yeah.
They threw us in the back of the squad car.
Oh.
And eighth grade, mind you, they threw us in the back of the squad car. And I said to, his name is Jason. And I said, what did you do with the slingshot? So our handcuffs are hand. So he goes in his pocket. He goes,
Yeah.
go in my pocket, hand it to me. He took the slingshot and he stuffed it way underneath in the back of under with the back of the squad
Cops. Yeah.
car.
The seat. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we never got caught with it.
Wow.
So they didn't have any proof. So we got really lucky on that. But gosh, I mean, you probably have some crazy stories as well with that. But it's just crazy
Absolutely.
the adaptability and growth that has taken place through our journey. And it goes back to my original statement is like our past
Yeah.
doesn't define us.
Nope.
It's the journey for you to look back to see how far you've come, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And how close you know you are to your purpose. What would you
So,
say? Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, because I think what you're saying is a good segue, maybe to go back to your original question. So all that you've been through, all that I've been through, sparked a thought or a goal in your mind to accomplish,
Yes.
and then your purpose comes to fruition.
Oh, for sure. For
Because
sure.
that, that life event that you had, few that I had, led me to, okay, hold on. Here's my goal from now on. I'm going to help couples or anyone who asks me for help how not to fall into this trap and lose their marriage.
For sure.
Now, I haven't been 100% effective. I never expected to be because people that we've talked to have gotten divorced or have come to us already with their minds made up that we're going to divorce.
Wow.
Only reason we're talking to you is because we thought we might be able to. But my mind is made up. So their goal was they're going to divorce. So the purpose then became, how do I get to this divorce? Not how do I reconcile the marriage? So that would
You
be
know,
an opposite, right? Of
yeah.
a good goal or a negative goal. And or maybe no, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe their good goal was the divorce because if they stayed together, they would have hurt each other.
But you know what's interesting is with all that, and you bring up really valid points. Like it doesn't just happen. Like
No.
you want a divorce. There's
Nope.
so many things that come along with it, and it goes back to that vulnerability piece of not
Uh-huh.
expressing your emotions in a healthy,
Correct.
congruent, positive way. Not
Yeah.
only that, or hiding something, or not spending, you know, doing date nights together, not
Hmm.
connecting, not, I have a few clients of mine, Turner, that one that I was working with, she came to me in August. They were separated. Needless to say, fast forward, I gave her like a blueprint in a sense.
Hmm.
Her and her husband are reunited.
Praise
They are in the
God.
process of getting a place right now, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But it's like but it, all of these things of divorce and even you can just say relationships, is if you don't know how to cultivate, communicate, and honestly, for me personally, and when I teach my clients, is Christ centered on top of that as a foundation. Yes,
Hmm.
it's gonna struggle. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be an inadvertent passing
Yeah.
of strangers. Like, and that's the other thing too, is like when your husband or significant other comes home,
Yeah.
what's the interaction?
Yeah.
Is it the statistics say a 6-second kiss on the
Yeah.
lips releases tons of endorphins,
Tons. Yeah.
and not only that, but like, hey, like, and I get it, and I'm preaching to probably some people out there, like, Michael, you don't understand, like, man, I'm exhausted from my job, I come home, I just want to, no, I do understand that, but on the other side though too, is if you're not investing in, and I'm a product of failure, y'all. And I've learned from
Mm.
my failure. But if you're not investing in that continuously,
Yeah.
the D word happens, divorce,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. It
Yeah.
does. It really does, and it can happen. It can happen.
So as we are, coming to the end here, and it's been an awesome podcast, what would you say to our lifelong learners that want to embrace new opportunities, really find their purpose? If you could just break it down in a nutshell, what would you tell them?
Oh my. Every one of these questions could be an hour-long
I
podcast
know,
in
I know,
itself,
I know, I
man. You
know,
just
I
you
know.
set your brother up. That's what you did. Wow.
Just
Um,
hey,
I think
hey.
I think from
I love it.
from experience, as you share some experiences, and from experiences that I have had over my life's course, take an inventory of what you've lived through and conquered,
Yeah.
and use that as a springboard to explore the next level. I don't even know if that answers the question, but I can tell you that what I just said helped me in that, okay, I have been on this track for, at that point, 2 years, 2.5 years.
Hmm.
That track isn't working. That's not working. So I am forced to try something new. So how do I try the new? I have to then, and I'm trying to use words that we've shared tonight. I have to become vulnerable to me and to those that I'm connected to intimately, either whether that's just um, verbally or intimately as a husband and wife would be, and formulate where we want to go, and then where do we want to go?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a goal, you can't get a purpose.
Right, right. But that really comes to with what you said, like that really, you need to do a self audit of
Absolutely,
yourself. And
Hmm.
men that are listening, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be bold when I say this, Turner. Marriages and relationships fail because men don't know how to lead accurately.
Men, yeah. So I'll say it again, and I know this ruffles feathers. Men don't know how to be men. They know how to be masculine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They don't know how to be men. We can be real hard.
For sure.
We can go wrestle and box and play football and
Yeah.
soccer and rugby and fight
Yeah.
and threaten to kill you. We can do all that. But when
Right.
it comes to being a man, just having a conversation with another man is hard. But you and I can because we have gotten to a place that, you know what? I need somebody to talk to for
That's that.
real.
That's it. That's that. I
And
always say this
and do
is
I trust them? I gotta trust them, or I'm not saying a thing.
for sure. For sure.
And so when I tell you something, my wife shouldn't hear it. My best friend on the other side that we both know shouldn't hear it. I was talking to Doug yesterday. You ain't gonna believe what happened. No, I shouldn't didn't hear that from a third party
For sure. For sure.
because I
And the
know
other
I
side,
told Michael.
yeah, you know what's interesting too is for those of you that are listening on this podcast, and stop listening to what other people are saying. When
Oh,
you open up the floodgates and you
oh
let
man.
your parents talk about your relationship,
Oh
or
man.
your friends talk about your relationship, I'm going to tell you, you already set yourself up. Because to be honest with you, in my professional opinion on this, Turner, and I want to hear yours, is if you bring a issue to a, let's say, a another parent, in-law, or whatever it might be, maybe it's your parent, and you say, oh, you wouldn't believe that, my wife's doing X, Y, and Z. The first thing that should say it come out of their mouth should be, they should be defending the other party.
Yeah.
Like I truly, like, well, what does that make sense? Do you know what I mean
Yeah. It does. It
when I say
does.
that? Because it's so easy. And we could talk about the statistical rate, and what we see on TV, and we see all these things on social media, and my goodness, men looking at pornography. I mean, we can go in and
Mm,
on so many aspects. And I could tell you, if you know the direction that you want, and if your values and morals aren't aligning with who you want to become,
yeah.
reach out to a coach,
Yes.
reach out to a mentor, reach out to somebody that can
Absolutely.
help you get in alignment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Total. Total. And so that if I can go back, I don't know how much time we have. I think
Yeah,
we're
we got a
over.
couple minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. But you mentioned earlier community, and we never really answered that.
Right.
And I said no because you don't because community, it's a group. Well, when I hear the word community, I think of a big group of folk. Well, my wife and I had nobody but God, me and her and God. That was it. We stopped talking to family because they were taking sides because they couldn't help it.
For
They
sure.
couldn't help it. What would think about it? What would you do? Your daughter comes home,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? You're taking sides.
Yeah.
As much as you would love to have done what you just said, in other words, say, okay, honey, but your husband is a good man, or else you wouldn't have married him. What the heck? What you do? You're not gonna do that. It's going to be more like, what the heck did he do?
For
And
sure.
where is he?
For
Because I
sure.
may have to go after him and confront him,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
so we had to cut family off. So the community had to be silenced
Mm,
until we healed. We had to make up in our minds this is the goal, and the goal determines the purpose.
that's a good point. Like,
It's a
really, really good
oh
point.
my God, dude, because we couldn't. Boy, if we had called, because oh my God, my wife actually did talk to my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law said, "What did you do?" Now, my mother-in-law was a different kind of mother-in-law, and she did. My wife didn't tell her all the detail, but they knew we were having issues. But my mother-in-law would always push her back to, no, go talk to your husband. Isn't that something?
That's unreal. And
That's
you
and
know, here
my
we
mother did
are,
this.
and here
Yeah,
we
my mother
are.
did the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but then we
Well,
knew we got to cut that off because
that's
they're
but you're right though, and
yeah,
it goes down to negativity, and
absolutely,
like I mean, it talks about in the Bible biblically about peace.
yeah,
Your home should be peaceful.
absolutely,
Your family should be peaceful.
yeah,
Sometimes our work environment is not always peaceful, but then you need to learn how to fill yourself up with peace before you get into that work environment.
absolutely.
Um, you know, and when we bring in, I always share this all the time with my clients is when you're in poo, you smell like poo, you feel like poo, you give poo, you know?
Oh my
But
goodness.
like for
Yes,
real,
sir.
and you don't even know
Yeah.
you smell. That's the
Right.
crazy thing.
You stack. You got an
Yes,
aroma.
yes. Turner, what do you got for our listeners before we go tonight, brother? Hey, give a shout out to any ways they can get a hold of you. You got anything coming up on the horizon? You writing a book? Like where are you at? What's going on?
So, you know what? I'm actually trying to write a book. I've been talking about writing this book for years, and we have a mutual friend in David Cooks. And yeah, I've been
I
talking
had
to
him
him.
on my podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, oh wonderful. And
yeah.
so yeah, I'm trying to get my head straight to write the book, and it will be about my life. The masculinity piece, the not thinking I knew my dad, but actually did. All of that. My siblings come out of the woodwork trying to find me, all that stuff. And so I am trying to write a book, and so I don't have the manuscript done, but that's coming. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our ministry is right here in Illinois. We're in Bolingbrook, Illinois. The address that we're currently serving or having our services out of is 364 Commons Drive, Bolingbrook, Illinois. And we are sharing space with a wonderful ministry by the name of Shy Hop, Chicago International House of Prayer. Um, you can also reach us by email if you like, CFFC community at gmail.com. CFF, let me do that again, CFF community, CFF community at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Christian Faith Fellowship Community Church of God in Christ, and on YouTube, CFFC space Kojic.
Oh, I love that.
Check us out. Yeah,
I
check
love
us
it.
out. Check us
I
out.
love it. And you heard it all tonight, you guys, on Framing New Heights. And I know we probably could have gotten deeper on. We should
Oh
maybe
yeah,
just
absolutely.
pick a subject. I'm going to bring you on again, Turner, because I love these conversations with you, man. And
I
many
appreciate it, bro.
blessings
I
to
do
you,
too.
brother.
Yes,
And
sir.
I
You
see
too.
such beautiful things for you and your family, and beautiful role models for not only your
Man,
church but society in general.
man, thank you so much. It's a pleasure knowing you, Hicks. We've been knowing you a good long time, and
For sure.
I consider you a brother, not just a friend. It's, you're a
For sure.
brother to me,
I
and
appreciate that, man.
my sons call you Unc. So,
I love it. I love it.
yes,
Tell
sir.
them I said hi. Hey, I got to do my
I will.
outro. As
Okay.
always, 1% better in mind, body, and soul. Come on, Carroll College. Get them up. Stay flexed.
You know what? Let me so, so you can see.
There we go. There
All
we
right.
go. Cool. All right, brother. I'll be in
Bless you,
touch.
man.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
later.
Love you, man. All
Love
right.
you too.